Included in your June Tailor Sew by Number placemat package, you'll find the packaging card. This will specify the amount of fabric you need to purchase in order to complete a set of 4 placemats. Wrapped inside your batting, you will find the instruction sheet. Here it details what size to cut all of your fabrics to fit within the numbered spaces of your printed batting pattern. The instructions tell you how to sew the pieces together. The printed batting includes 4 placemat patterns. So the first step in creating your placemats is to cut these pieces apart. You can use the scissors and cut approximately 1/2 to 1 inch on all 4 sides of each placemat pattern. The 1/2 to 1 inch margin will give you something to hold on to as you sew. You can use a regular scissors, or if you have a rotary cutter and cutting mat, you can use that to cut out your placemats. The 1/2 to 1 inch margin does not need to be perfect, as you are just keeping the extra to hold on to. You'll cut out all 4 sides, and then you will have 4 pieces that look like this. The next step we recommend in the Sew by Number process is that you start your fabrics, whether using yardage goods or pre-cuts such as strips or squares. June Tailor makes a starch called Quilter Starch Savvy. This has been formulated specifically for quilting cottons. Other starches, however, can be used as well. You want to starch your fabrics, first of all, to remove any wrinkles. Starching your fabric makes it stiffer and more crisp so that when you go to cut your fabrics, they're easier to cut and the sizes remain true. During the Sew by Number process, it will also give you some nice crisp seams. Now that all of our fabrics are starched, we can start cutting our fabrics. The instructions specify what size to cut each piece by number, the binding size, and the backing. We're going to start by cutting the backing first, which is a 16 by 22 inch piece. Typically, your quilting cottons are 44 inches wide, so I can get 2 pieces out of 1 width of fabric. There's several ways that you can cut your fabrics. One of them is if you have just the scissors, you can mark your lines and cut them. You always want to start with a straight edge. So I'm going to use my ruler and make sure that the line of the ruler lines up with the folds of the fabric. And I'm going to mark a line there, and I need 16 inches. So I'm going to mark my second line 16 inches from my first line. So we'll go 16 inches here and another 16 inches. Mark those lines, join them, and then I can cut them out. So using my scissors, I can cut through the layers right on that line. And you can use pretty much any marking pen you want as you're cutting right on the lines, so you don't need to have a special tool for that. If I have a rotary cutter and a cutting mat, I could also use those to cut the edges of my fabric. So now I have a 16 by 44 inch piece. I'm going to cut along the fold. You could also use your rotary cutter and mat. And cutting on that fold, cut my 2 pieces, and I now have my first 2 pieces of backing fabric. Now I'm going to start cutting my pieces by number. Piece 1 is a 5-inch square. You can choose to use a 5-inch square from a package of pre-cut fabrics, or you can cut your own. If you have a ruler and a scissors, you want to start by creating a straight edge and marking that 5-inch square. So first I'll draw a straight line on my fabric, and then from there we want to move 5 inches. So I'm going to place the 5-inch line of my ruler on the line that I just drew draw my second line to create 5 inches. Now we want to work perpendicular to that. So we can use our ruler and line up the 2 lines that we've previously drawn and mark a perpendicular line, and from there we need to go 5 inches from that line to create our 5-inch square. You can use all the markings on that ruler to make sure that your dimensions are accurate, and then you will cut right on the marked line. This will end up in your seam allowance. No one will see it, so if you don't have a special marking pen for fabrics, any pen that you can see on the color of your fabric will work. So we're going to cut right on that line so that we will achieve our 5-inch square. In this particular Sew by Number placemat set, pieces 2 through 13 are all 2.5-inch strips that get cut down into smaller pieces to fit their spaces. There's different ways that you can cut 2.5-inch strips, or you can use a pre-cut 2.5-inch strip. If you choose to use a pre-cut, you just need to cut it down into the smaller units. So for example, pieces 2 and 3 are 5 inches. So you can take your strip, place it on your cutting mat, align your ruler on the cut edge of the strip, mark a straight line, and then placing the 5-inch marking of your ruler on that marked line, you can mark your next cut. So we have our cuts marked, and then we're simply going to cut our 5-inch pieces from our pre-cut strip. Another method for cutting our fabrics is to use the June Tailor shape cut ruler. With this ruler, there are 1/2-inch slots that are perfectly sized to use with a rotary cutter. To use the ruler, you simply take your fabric and lay it on your cutting mat. I have a full width of fabric with fold and the selvage edges, and it's folded and then placed on the mat. Then you'll take the 0 line that's marked on the shape cut and place it directly on that bottom fold. Now you're going to want to square up the edge of your fabric by cutting in the 0 slot. Then we'll cut in 2.5 and 5 inches to create our 2.5-inch strips for this project. Once we have our 2.5-inch strips cut, we'll simply rotate the mat. Again, we'll take the shape cut ruler and place that 0 line on the previous cut pieces. Make sure these stay lined up here, like that. So take the 0 marked line, set that on our fabrics, cut in the 0 slot to make sure they stay squared up. And we're cutting our 5-inch pieces for pieces 2 and 3. So now I've cut all these 2.5 by 5-inch pieces very quickly and easily. We've completed cutting our backing fabric, our piece 1s, which are 5-inch squares, pieces 2 through 13, which are 2.5-inch strips, subcut to smaller pieces. Then pieces 14 through 17 will need to be cut. These are 3 inches by 6 inches and can be cut in any of the methods I've shown you. Finally, you will need 68 inches of 2.5-inch strips per placemat for your binding. Now, our cutting is complete.